Everybody. Welcome to this webinar on digital solutions for migrant integration. We're starting to connect to get everybody in. So while we do this and everybody can get their virtual seats, do not hesitate to, if you want, to share your video so that we see each other. It's an interactive webinar, but of course, as everybody preferred and felt more comfortable. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Patricia Martinez. I'm policy analyst and project manager at AEIDL, and AEIDL is one of the 12 partners of EPICAP project. So before we dive into today's webinar for this very relevant and hot topic, let me briefly introduce you to the project behind the webinar, which is EPICAP again. So EPICAP stands for Upscaling the European Platform of Integrating Cities. It's a 3-year project that we launched in May 2024. So today we celebrate the accomplishment of the first year. It's funded by the European Union, by the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund. It brings together 12 partners from across Europe and 13 associated organizations. And the core objective of EPICAP is to improve how local communities, diverse local communities, support the integration and the inclusion of migrants, mostly by developing better and more inclusive public services in their territory. And at the heart of our EPICAP project are the communities of practices. So these community of practices are multi-actor networks, bringing together different key actors, migrant associations, NGOs, civil society, public authorities in 6 territories in Bulgaria, Germany, Greece, Spain, Poland, and Italy. And they focus on identifying local needs, setting good practices within the community of practices and across countries, to test new approaches and strengthen the multi-actor cooperation in its territory to make integration strategies more effective and more responsive to the real needs. So today we are organizing the first of a series of webinars that are meant to serve collective knowledge around topics that could inspire what the Committee of Practice are going to do, and that also allows us to get in touch with other initiatives and to know what they've been doing. So for the next hour and a half, we have quite a rich agenda, I would say. We have the opportunity to have with us Jasmine Slodgy, Deputy Director of MPI Europe, who is going to set the scene, give us an overview on research and policy perspectives on digital inclusion. We will have the opportunity then to go deeper into concrete tools that have been developed, digital solutions in actions. 3 innovators from Germany, Friedrich Niert, co-founder of Tour in Germany, Alessandro Polimi, Associate Professor at the International Telematic University Unettuno in Italy and coordinator of Rebuild project, and Pacom Lerouge, who is a social innovation designer who has developed, among other platforms, this Box app. He will present shortly. And then we will have time for some Q&A, to hear your questions, to hear your remarks, your comments. Feel free to use the chat to interact, and during the moments of Q&A to also raise your hand. We'll be hearing then from Leah Lebanon, Digital Rights and City Cooperation Call Center, representing Cities Coalition for Digital Rights, who will allow us to go deeper into some consideration about human rights-based when we develop and implement digital solutions. And then we will wrap up with some remarks, and I will give the floor to the project coordinator of EPICAP, my colleague Mohamed Mustafa. This is from my side. I don't want to take more of the time for the actual content and debate. And first of all, I would like to welcome and to thank you, Jasmine Slodgy, Deputy Director of Migration Policy Institute, MPI Europe, who, as I said, is going to give us an overview, some insights on research and policy perspectives for inclusive data solution. So good morning, Jasmine. Thank you very much for having joined us today. And please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. And also very excited to hear about all the other interesting projects that will be presented today and initiatives. Let me see if I can minimize this so it won't. Maybe I can drag this way. There we go. So I would like to give a bit of a brief overview. We only have 15 minutes, so I will have to skip a bit quickly over some parts. But very clearly, we have seen a big rise in the use of tech in the area of migrant integration. And this is fueled by, I think, two simultaneous trends. On the one hand, there is a growing demand, partially fueled by decentralization. So increasingly, there's more responsibilities on, for example, local governments, often without a matched increase in the resources that they get to implement these. We also see a big rise in staff shortages, which often make public authorities resort to digital tools. And we also see, especially in the field of migrant integration, it's a very complex and fragmented playing field. And the integration process can be, in certain member states, quite complex and difficult to navigate. And here, digital tools can really smooth the process and make better connections across all these different players. And of course, all of this has been fueled by COVID-19, that goes without saying. Well, on the other hand, we see a growing supply. There's been a big data boom, the datafication of everything. So whatever we do, data is often being collected, and this can inform different tools, more targeted approaches. We see an enormous boom in tech developments, including AI, blockchain, machine learning, etc. And then there's also a very proactive role of the private sector that also has an interest to sell the different products that they're developing. And there's different approaches there. So some, of course, have a focus on increasing their profits, while there's also a lot of tech for good or corporate social responsibility happening as well. So it's a bit of a mixed bag there. But clearly, this is a very fertile ground to use tech. And I want to have a look with all of you at how digital solutions can come in if you think about migrant integration. And oftentimes in these conversations, there's a bit of a narrow view. There's a lot of focus on an online language course or an online integration course or information tools online, but there's actually a lot more that can be done or could be done. So I want to zoom out a little bit, and this already starts pre-departure, because this is, yeah, it's specifically useful there. Before leaving, migrants and refugees could already access different tools and already kickstart the integration process. And there's different ways to do this. And we can already see this in the second point. For example, through already networking with the communities that will be hosting them, connecting to diaspora organizations, but also accessing information, or, for example, already starting a language course online. Something that's also sometimes overlooked is, where do migrants and refugees go? Where are they placed within a country? And we've seen a lot of experimentation with spatial matching. So then migrants and refugees are matched with a specific location in a country that would optimize their opportunities for integration. And there's been a lot of experimentation in this area, but one particular example is GeoMatch. They use AI, and according to their models, they could increase labor market integration with 40 to 70% in some of their case studies. So that's quite significant. But there's different approaches. This is really focusing on labor market integration, but there's also other tools that look more at what are the needs of migrants for specific services, and can they be placed in an area, for example, if you're from LGBTQI plus background, can you be placed in an area where there's services that you require, that you would like to have access to? As I already mentioned before, tools can also be used it's really to navigate the entire process. So not so much giving information, but for example, through an app or through another digital tool, each step of the way, what are the deadlines? Who do we need to reach out to? What resources do I need at this stage? And also streamlining communication. Many member states have experimented with this during COVID-19. Many member states rely on physical letters being sent to migrants or refugees to inform them, oh, you have your deadline to finish your integration courses by this date. Instead, this could all be in one place online, and this could also be, with the click of a button, be translated into different languages, which would make it much more accessible. And then another way, and this, I think the one we all think of most often, are just moving integration courses or learning tools online. And here I put individualized, because that's, I think, the interesting thing here about in tech tools. They have the opportunity to more easily adapt to the needs of the person. And this could be in different ways. For example, a person who may be have, for example, a very high educational level, they could kind of speed up the course a little bit for this person, or they could also target more the labor market sector this person hopes to integrate in. So someone who's maybe a nurse could be getting a very specific language course that targets healthcare related vocabulary. So it's a more individualized, targeted way. And also we see the use of tech tools in, for example, recognizing qualifications. So using AI to quickly scan diplomas and check whether qualifications are recognized. And there's a lot more. And I think the key message here is that tech can be used in many ways, and it's important to think creatively. Doesn't mean it should be used everywhere, but there's a lot of ways, and it could really reshape the integration process. There a little bit about the policy context. There's already a goal or a mention in the EU Action Plan on Integration and Inclusion, and also, of course, funding that, of course, this project Epic Up received through AMIF. And the key focus there was really on using digitalization to foster access to integration and other services. And here, compared to the previous slide, you see it's a little bit more narrow, the focus. So it's just using digitalization to access services that are already out there instead of creating and facilitating something new, like some of the issues that or examples that I mentioned before. And there's like 3 subcomponents that you can see here. They have a very interesting tracker online where you can see all the different projects and tools that they've created. There's a hyperlink. I'm happy to share the slides after the presentation. But overall, I think important to also understand that there's other legislation as well that's not specific to migration. We have the AI Act, we have GDPR that all also highlight the risks of using data, of using AI, using tech, and that kind of set the boundaries of what we can do. And in the area of migration, it's been marked as a high risk area, but at the same time, there's a lot of exclusions and more relaxed oversight to use AI on migration. So it's, yeah, on the one hand, this creates opportunities to use AI, but on the other hand, this could also create vulnerabilities for migrants and refugees who are exposed to this. This creates a lot of opportunities. Some I've already mentioned. I think one really key one that I would like to highlight is what I call the tech paradox. On the one hand, moving things online and using technology could cut off people from using an integration services, for example, because they lack the digital literacy or they don't have access to technology. But we also see it makes certain services more inclusive. Some of my own research shows that during COVID-19, there were certain groups that increased their participation in language and integration courses, and this included women, parents with children, and also working migrants. Many of these don't have time to travel up and down to a classroom. They combine it with childcare, with work. So moving things online actually made services more accessible, and this was a little bit unexpected at the time. So there's this is a big benefit. As I mentioned before, it tackles the issue of staff shortages. You can use more targeted approaches, so have a more individualized approach and really fitting the needs of migrants and refugees. As I mentioned, with the spatial matching, you can really optimize integration outcomes by really placing a migrant in the community where they have the best factors for potential success. It could unlock pre-departure integration, so start that process already ahead of time. And it could be cost effective. There is a lot of initial investment, but once an app or website or tool is running, it could be relatively cheaper to keep it going. Quickly also going over the risks and obstacles. The first one I already mentioned, and there's a lot of conversation on this, but important to underline, right, that people may not have an internet connection, may not have a laptop or a phone, and may lack the digital literacy to navigate websites or apps, etc. So this is a very important factor to consider when designing these types of tools. Another one that's overlooked sometimes a little bit is that a lot of different apps, websites, tools are being created time and again. Each crisis causes a flurry and a boom of investment. But then once the funding dries up, these tools remain out there, but they're no longer updated. And this creates what they sometimes is referred to digital litter. And migrants still access these tools, but they find outdated information that misinforms them. So this can be quite dangerous and risky. So it's very important to move things offline if they're no longer used and updated, and to, before launching a new tool, really look what is out there and how can we work with what is there already. I already mentioned some concerns about AI. Some governments, for example, use AI chatbots that give information on the integration process. Accuracy is not always correct, so that's something to be very important. And then we have also the ethical parts about how the data is used, etc. The risk of duplication is kind of related to this digital litter, just new tools being launched, which is a bit of a waste of efforts. And also for migrants and refugees, which tools should they use if there are so many apps and websites out there? And then it's the other side of the coin. It really depends on the tool or what you're using, but launching such a tool could be quite expensive. So it really depends a bit on the setup. So how can we move forward? What are the lessons we can learn? First, it's to combine tech with in-person methods. I think tech can be incredibly advantageous and really move and improve certain parts of the integration process, but it doesn't replace it. And especially for certain groups, vulnerable groups, it's very important to make sure that this in-person connection is still there. A second point is co-creating and collaborating with migrants and refugees when creating these tools, making sure that their needs and how they interact with these tools is taken into consideration when they are designed. Third, very much related to some of the risks I just mentioned, important to upscale some of these effective pilots that we see and make sure that those that are no longer being updated, we remove that. So clean up the digital litter. Also reduce the dependence on the tech sector by making sure that the policymakers have sufficient knowledge. What we see now is that some policymakers are not really aware or understand how does AI work, how is privacy harmed, how is data being used and stored by different private sector companies that offer these tools. It's very important that policymakers have more of this understanding to make better decisions, how they want to use tech in an efficient way. And they don't need to become an AI specialist, but just understand better. And I think with your communities of practice, I think that's a great step in the right direction. Then, of course, strengthening safeguards for AI and also the protection of data. And then lastly, really investing in pilots and monitoring and evaluation. So we know what works, we can innovate and then scale up what works. I'd like to wrap up. We have some relevant studies on this that are here. The paper on the COVID-19 catalyst really goes into how digitalization happened during the pandemic and all the kind of unexpected pros and cons that came up during that time. And I would love to stay in touch. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yasmin, for this very comprehensive presentation, zooming out of what is the landscape, what are the opportunities, what are the challenges. As you said, there is this box of really different opportunities that can support migrants and refugees to navigate the entire integration process, even pre-departure, but to be considered some obstacles and risk, and that it is in any case an essential tool that can tackle challenges and sorts staff shortages or reducing costs, etc. But in any case, it doesn't replace in person also. As somebody who experienced a 12 hours blackout on Monday, I fully agree with having this combination, you know, jokes aside, but I think it's a very important message that you sent of how it is really a tool that is meant to tackle the challenge, but is not the final solution that replaces the whole process, especially when we are speaking about vulnerable groups. My colleague Marisol is sharing the links to your research in the chat for everybody who wish to have a look at it. We will put everything also on our website. We don't have any questions so far. I would like to invite our attendees to, if they have comments, remark, questions, you might want to use the chat, if not right now, because we are still warming up, and now we're going to hear more examples after this comprehensive presentation. We will have more time for Q&A and for the debate later after 11 above all, but do not hesitate to make your questions and comments, and otherwise also Jasmine might be able to reply in the chat while we are having the other interventions. So please do not hesitate, because this is really meant to be useful for all the attendees, all those that are really looking at what are going to do on my municipality. We have many public authorities, NGOs, civil society that are really working on the ground. So if you are thinking that this could be a tool that that might be beneficial for you, and you have questions about it, do not hesitate. Thank you again, Jasmine. It's been very, very informative. We remain speaking with you later in the session. So now, as we announced before, we would like to have real examples, so innovators from different countries, from different funding opportunities that have really developed, implemented different digital solutions, what we call the digital solution in actions. And the first one that I would like to welcome is Fridtjof Nier. He's a co-founder of Tour and Tour, Digital Fabric Association in Germany. And you created this integrate multilingual platform that started for what I know as something, also the pilot that we were saying, Jasmine was one of the boxes also at the end. You start piloting and assessing, and then when things are successfully being tested, monitored, and evaluated, you scale up. But I will not spoil your presentation. Good morning, Fridtjof. Thank you very much for having joined us today, and please tell us more about the Integrate app.
Well, yeah, thank you so very much for having me today. I will try to give you a brief overview of what we have done in Germany. So Integrate was one of those digital platforms that was launched in times of crisis. Integrate was launched in 2015 when we had a huge influx of refugees into Germany. In 2015, 2016, we had roughly 1 million people seeking refuge in Germany. And at that time, we were just a group of students studying in Munich and in the city of Augsburg, which is nearby. And we wanted to help those refugees by finding integration relevant information in their native language upon their arrival. This is where our journey started. Integrate is a joint project by a long-time integration association called Tour and Tour and the Technical University of Munich, where we studied at the time. And the first municipal partner was the city of Augsburg. Integrate helps people to find their way in a new environment. Now, at the beginning, the focus was on refugees. That was the most urgent case, but right now Integrate addresses all newcomers who come from any other country to Germany. Integrate helps integration officers to do their work quickly and effectively, and Integrate helps municipalities to carry out digital integration work cost effectively. We connect local integration stakeholders, and I've put on the map on the right-hand side with all of our municipal partners throughout Germany. We are currently have 110. To put that into perspective, we have 400 cities and counties, so municipal governments in Germany, and we're getting closer to having covered 1/3 of Germany with Integrate. What is a crucial part of what we are doing, or how Integrate works, that it is only carried out in collaboration with the local government and then local organizations and initiatives. So the information that newcomers find on the Integrate platform are created and updated by the local team, by those people who know the landscape the best, and who are empowered to update the information. So it is not us and our project team doing it from afar, but those people who are on site, who are responsible for the Integrate content. So what we found, and what still holds up today, is we have people coming with smartphones, so we have a device that we can carry out information to them. We have quite a few pieces of information which change relatively quickly, so we need to adapt to that. And back in 2015, that was even more the case, but we still have that we do not have a stable internet connection or a data plan at the beginning. So our answer to that was we wanted to bundle local information, offers, tips, and contacts for all the newcomers arrive. We wanted to relieve the public authorities and advice centers, but we don't want to replace them. We want to give them more time for human-to-human interaction. So ideally, Integrate builds that bridge, answers the often or the easy questions, but connect them to local advice centers and to local experts to help them on their integration journey. I've brought to you just a quick overview of the Integrate app. All municipalities share the very same platform. So we only have one-time setup costs. The municipalities pay a yearly fee to be part of that platform. However, it is open source, so they could set it up themselves, but we have a very fair pricing for the municipalities to be part of the project, so that which makes us financially independent from funding, so we can run Integrate on the revenues by the municipalities. We have the municipalities then can choose which languages they want to offer based on the people that, or the people that arrive in their city or county, and then all the information after that are locally created. So each Integrate app, to say it like that, in each city looks a little bit different with a common design. So even if newcomers move around, they feel comfortable in the way the navigation works, but they find locally relevant content. So we wanted to address the information poverty that newcomers are facing, but we've added to that with add-ins or add-ons that municipalities can choose from. They can have a map. They can create events to increase social participation of newcomers. We have multilingual news sites that are also available. And we have the first step towards or implementing artificial intelligence is by empowering the content creators on sites using interfaces to AI translation via Google Translate and a startup called DeepL. So they can update the information in German and have them automatically translated. And the quality luckily has increased over time. But we do not only have a smartphone application, which is much more important right now, is that we have a mobile responsive website as well, which makes all the Integrate content available via Google search or any other search engine, because people don't necessarily have to know that the Integrate exists to find content. Because what we find in Germany is that we have a lot of bureaucracy, people know that, and the information oftentimes is only available in German, maybe in English, but not in any other language. And once you search in your native language about anything relevant in Germany upon your arrival, you will find the information online. For those who do not have a smartphone or digital literacy is not the case, we have the possibility that, for example, advice centers can create PDF from the very same source, print it out, and give that to newcomers. Everything we develop is open source. The content available is Creative Commons license, so it can be used elsewhere as well. And we had in the past year 4.5 million accesses across all municipalities, making Integrate the most used information platform for newcomers in Germany. And we see some impact below those numbers. So we have those 4.5 million accesses, we have 200,000 app downloads, we have 500, 600 content creators. We have the visibility in search engine. We have the added benefit that when municipalities create the content for Integrate, they oftentimes for the very first time, they see what offers they have in their local integration landscape, where are gaps, where they have maybe redundant services. We get stakeholders or local stakeholders together and connect them as well. And we see that the municipal governments are more open to digital challenges, because Integrate is so easy to implement, so easy to use, that we don't need IT specialists in the municipal governments to run it. My last slide, just to show how it works. There's a 6-point plan until implementation. It takes a little bit of time because the Integrate administrators in the municipal governments have other jobs as well. Integration work for municipalities in Germany is voluntary, but municipal governments are highly motivated to support newcomers. So our role is the technical development, technical maintenance, and guiding them through this process upon their request to use Integrate. And then we have a workshop with them, help them with the content creation. And yeah, usually in 22 weeks, they have their Integrate app up and running. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. Yes. Thank you to you, Fridtjof, for this presentation, how it could be created, this timeline. And as you said, your role is mainly accompanying all the development. We understand that it also depends very much on the public authorities on creating this content, and it can be customized depending on each context. We had some questions, and well, there was a remark about the assumption of most refugees and migrants having a smartphone. I would imagine that this perhaps varied depending on on the city of the population. I don't know if you want to comment on that. And the other one, and then I leave you to react. Is there a difference between platform and app? I understand that it is the different ways of using. Is there a way, and I know that this app has been scaled up across, as you said, customized to each, so they don't have the same interfaces or the same functionalities all across, but is there any also interaction with the user, or it's more like the information provision, but there is not this, let's say, feedback loops, etc.?
So the integrated platform as a whole, we have a content management system that the municipalities use to create information, do the translations, create those points on the map. And then we have the integrate native apps for iOS and Android, and we have the web app that you can access via a browser or find it via the Google search. And all of that together is the integrate platform. We purposely developed integrate in a way that is there's like only one direction that we can communicate in both directions. So there's no chat at the moment. We're currently working on that, but we have one place where information gets to the users, but users can give feedback, especially when they are missing information that is crucial for municipalities to add to the integrate content. But we're looking at implementing a chat functionality, because right now, and luckily so, there's so much content that is relevant to newcomers that is sometimes hard to navigate through everything. We have a search function, but the integrate chat is able to answer questions. So it's kind of a chatbot. It answers the question based on the content that is there. And behind that, if then there's still no answer, we can have if municipality choose that, because personal resources are the issue there, and they can have a AI translation powered counseling service in a digital way, so they can communicate across the language barrier. And towards the assumption that almost all refugees, asylum seekers have smartphones, I can only speak for Germany, and based on what we've learned over time. So in 2015, when we started, the municipal government that we started with, the city of Augsburg, they had a task force asylum. So they literally met everybody who arrived in the city of Augsburg, and their assumption was that 75 to 80% came with a smartphone. That's why we chose to develop an app. Right now, we have a different system how asylum seekers and refugees arrive in Germany, because we have larger reception facilities. But we have a collaboration with an organization called the Malteser Werke, who operate 50-something reception facilities in Germany. And we have a white label solution of Integrate. So same technology, but basically we painted it red. And what we found is that people arriving there, 95+% have smartphones. So that is something that we face, and also that is something or not face, but that is that's the luck maybe we have in Germany, that we can reach them over their smartphones. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Frigida. I understand your point, and I said this all goes back to this being a very useful tool that can leverage some help, but that it doesn't mean that it's going to check all the boxes when it comes to the assistance needed, and it needs to be duly complemented by others. But it's really meant to address, I think, the shortages in staff and resources and time, etc., that Jasmine was mentioning. We need to move to the. I know that Mansour, you want to take the floor very quickly, please, because we need to. But we have more time later for debate. I think you are trying to say something, but you are We cannot see you or hear you. Otherwise, please, if you can text it, and then we give you the floor later, because I know that there are now more questions coming in. You might want to look at the chat if possible as well, Frida, but thank you very much for sharing your experience and how you work with others, with public authorities, above all, to put together this initiative. Now let's go in. Sorry, now I mute myself. Let's go into another experience. And I think, as Fred just said, all these things are quickly evolving, looking at the new trends, it starts with some features, and then it evolves into something else. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are from the very beginning integrated solutions, but that they might evolve over time, and with the feedback loops of user, etc., they can be better fine-tuned. But I leave this here from the debate later on, and now I would like to give a warm welcome to Alessandro Polimi, as Associate Professor in Industrial Design at the International Telematic University Uninettuno in Italy, and project coordinator of the Rebuild project that was funded by the Horizon 2020 project. So please, Alessandro, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. It's very exciting to be here. Welcome everyone and good morning. I'm Alessandro Polini. I'm an associate professor in industrial design, as Marisol was saying, as Patricia was saying, and this is actually what I am proposing, reflection and presentation and reflection around the Horizon 2020 Rebuild project activities and results. Looking at ICT-enabled solutions, we worked with AI-enabled digital tools to support the integration of migrants by providing personalization of services. I wanted here to provide my contribution around participatory design and collective design of digital technologies to make them, as also was said by at the beginning in the first talk, to make them accessible, ready, prepared for users, final users, and migrants and refugees. I will talk in this contribution about very quickly about the approach of social design. So what's the value of design, the role and the impact that it can provide to social integration and social projects. Then I would mention some aspects more related to the how. How is it possible? How it is that be applicable? So the co-creation approach and participation. And then I would try to bridge and connect some of the main challenges we derive from the research to the design and implementation of our digital tools. And then I will provide you with some link to this work and to the outcomes of this work. So just to begin, what's the role and the impact that design might provide to this discussion? Of course, if design is driven by certain values we believe in, like social integration, equality, trust, in that case, design is inspired by real-world challenges. No, so this is not new in the design field. Has been driven from the 70s by many scholars and authors, among which Victor Papanek is one of the most eminent. We believe also, and also at the beginning of this experience, we believed that design could have the opportunity to open debates and to open discussions around socially relevant issues to guide reflections upon them, but also to have this transformative role into the practices of hosting, of living together, of community building. And in particular, with the idea that this transformative role might challenge the status quo of our local communities, of our European cities, to foster, of course, social innovation, also to push ahead social innovation practices also. By means of technologies and in particular to improve the quality of interactions, not only the social interactions, in-person social interactions, but also the technology-mediated interactions. In order to do that, the way and the approach we took in the Rebuild project was to establish a co-creation and co-design approach, meaning to put emphasis on the influence from each of those multiple and diverse panel of stakeholders. So each of the different stakeholders took part in the co-creation according to, of course, different degrees and forms, but also in different stages of the process. And of course, even this co-design approach is not new. So starting from last century Bauhaus, we are now in the new Bauhaus era, founded by European Union. But the original and foundational Bauhaus already in the last century introduced participation and some of the equality. Let's think about women participation in the textile workshops or in the craft workshop in the Bauhaus era. And that was very challenging to point out to directors, schools director, or the entire society, the role of very different participants, not only to that school in that time, but also to the different actors sitting at the table of ideation, of innovation. And we try to foster participation as the true value of a process, connecting the different use context in the project. We span across 3 countries that I saw also in the EPICAP, Italy, Greece, and Spain, that in the overall consortium of partners represented the pilot studies. And we were there connecting use context, recognition of all the different users' life experiences, and establishing design suggestions and creative design cycles through the experiment of artifacts, of several artifacts that we will see. But beyond those definitions of participation, co-creation, and co-design, we asked ourselves what was the scope, the ultimate scope of our design, of our technology. So, which was aiming at creating integration instead of separation, but also with a specific approach, which was not in our ideas, in our approaches, not to meant to be paternalistic, but really generative and regenerative to foster this meeting point among different stakeholders and roles. We as researchers and in particular design researchers and all the other actors in the local communities. And this was possible to establish in a proper research and design process. So meaning that we wanted to connect the results of the research on the user experience, on the local communities to inform the design of services in particular, but also the design of tools and digital tools. And also to have the opportunity in this project, but also in the follow-ups of this project, to apply the design into a novel establishment of research, in particular to evaluate this transformative action and to see and to evaluate the emerging practices through continuous iteration and experiment. And how we do that and what we do. We actually use a variety of tools and artifacts to mediate the interactions with the local communities of migrants and refugees and service providers. Starting from visual storytelling to communicate, so to say, the role of artifacts during the life experience, which kind of service touch point we were taking into account. In this example, we have some of the initial sketches about healthcare service access. And also we use those methods, of course, in a variety of workshops and meetings to foster also the envisioning of novel services. So this is the situation. So the need of accessing service, healthcare service, but we asked in particular what we can do, what you want to realize together with us. And we did that across the three different situations. This is an example from Spain, where we evaluated in particular a pictogram language for illiterate people, so to foster access of illiterate people throughout Europe. So I saw in the previous presentation also this reference to multi-language, and we face the same issue, of course, but also we try to develop and establish a pictogram language that you will see then more in particular, that were based on common knowledge and standard about icons and iconography, but also we developed a further adaptation and cross-cultural adaptation of that. And then, of course, many co-design workshop together with migrants and refugees. This is another example of coming from the activities of our partners in Greece, which was Omnes, designing for migrants and refugees from Syria and from Middle East, trying to create a map that were in particular service map. So in order to guide people, we need to orientate and to guide their physical action, but also their digital actions across service. And this was what we did also in Bologna, together with several entities on the local communities, ranging from street lawyers to local healthcare service providers, in order to trace which kind of journeys migrants and refugees have to face during their ordinary physical and life journey. And from this activity, we got a variety of challenges. I just mentioned 3 here, and we'll connect those 3 challenges with our design contribution. So first of all, when we talk about integration, we need to think in a very concrete and practical way what integration means. And here you might teach us from your experience what really means to integrate people according to their condition and past experiences and competencies and sensitiveness. Then, of course, the issue of literacy. Some of the previous speakers talked about language. I also want to address linguistic, cultural, and technological literacy altogether in a more holistic approach to this issue. And last one is the broader concept of diversity according to life experiences, requirements, and expectations. And we tried to address those issues, first of all, by providing an extensive informative support. So the result of this project is are twofold. There's a mobile app and also a backend dashboard, service dashboard for local service provider. And the mobile app has an extensive use of informative support. So the idea is to guide migrants and refugees through videos and interactive guides and tutorials to not only understand the tool and the artifact itself, so it is there to support your action in the local territory, but also how which kind of methods are there in the application. So what's the way of using this artifact, and also we try to address, as I said before, the literacy issue through the use of pictograms. We made an extensive use of that. Those 6 are the 6 domains that we worked on in the Rebuild project, which are health, education, housing, job, social relations, and legal. And what does Rebuild do? It is actually a tool for connecting people through the access gate of a service. So it's not a tool for digitalizing a service, but to bring people to the access point. Okay, so the idea is to guide the newcomers and migrants and refugees to specific services like booking a meeting with the clinicians rather than to book a meeting or receive counseling according to education, and with a variety of methods, including video message exchange, but also including the use of AI, which in this case I will comment in particular. But this is the methods actually. Through building blocks strategy, we wanted to foster the basic access to those services also to illiterate people. Okay, to say, okay, let's express your basic and first question by composing those cards and icons. And then to start from that, you have the English version here, but we have a multi-language, of course, also in this case, given the fact that during the pilot, many people talk in Farsi, Arabic, and many languages, of course, were included. But this visual representation was one of the issues to test and evaluate during the project and afterwards. And what about
Alessandro, if you can please wrap up, because we're
yes,
a bit
yes.
going video
I am closing.
Thank you.
I am closing. Just wanted to say that our artificial intelligence, as was said before, was really developed under a rule-based approach to control those conversations and to provide people and users with accurate information and to, of course, eliminate any uncertainty. Okay, so this precision and clarity of the provided information was one of the reasons to adopt a rule-based chatbot and to work in particular with matchmaking and personalization through hybrid filtering, which is a technological solution we used to connect user profile and to guide them into the services provided by the region. Yes, just to conclude, at the end of the project in 2023, we understood which kind of collective design mindset was needed since we established them in the local pilots. We trying to adopt a very practical, wide participation perspective according to public authorities' needs and expectations and availabilities, but also the local community availabilities. And in particular, we try to establish this evidence-based, human-centered AI, so meaning to have an AI controlled and based on actual experiences. I have finished, but I have, of course, a lot to say since, of course, this tool is available, and we are also available to follow up studies and continue this discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alessandro, really for, I know this is challenging and it's a complex topic, and there are many questions, concerns that are emerging, very valuable ones that are shared in the chat. We will have a bit more time to go into the, let's say, human race-based consideration later with Leah. There are some also questions about resources. Perhaps you can address it in the chat, because I think it's very important you speak about not being paternalistic. And here we are speaking that we must ensure end users involvement, but how we earn the trust of the people, how we involve the actors, how we ensure that there's meaningful contribution from them. And I would imagine that here there are some aspects connected with the budget for the pilot. So you have that question in the chat, if you don't mind replying there, Alessandro. And in the meantime, I will give the floor to our next panelists. We are going to move now for the a big EU-funded project with many partners across different EU countries to a designer, Pacôme Lerousse. I would say I will present you as a citizen that is coming from a sector and that wanted to make use of your skills, of your knowledge, to see how you could create something that would enable citizen participation, bringing them closer to public authorities, to foster democratic participation, people engaging, again, as a tool and not as a replacement of the whole democratic process. But we have asked you, Pacôme, to present you concretely an app that that you have developed that is also available and that you've been tested already in some real cases for democratic participation of citizens, like in Brussels. So please, Pacom, can you present us this app that you have developed, how you did it, how it works?
Okay.
The floor is yours.
All right. So you might see the screen right now. So hi everybody. So my name is Pacom. I'm a social innovation designer. So thank you, Alessandro. I think you did a very nice context explaining how participation design work, starting from design thinking. So I'm also a designer, so I will not speak about the context. Actually, I think you explained it pretty well. So thank you for the invitation. So today I'm going to present you the application I've been working on for like 2 years now. So it's called VoxApp. It's a tool that redefines community engagement. So here's a bit the context. So it's not really on migrants, but it can be accommodated. It's really about citizens and how they do communicate with decision makers. So in this page here, we can see that there are some disconnected voices between citizen and decision makers, where citizens feel sometimes unheard in the decision-making process, and whereas decision makers feel sometimes overheard by unstructured feedback. So during some research here in Brussels, there is this new mobility plan called Good Move, and they receive 300 comments from a single survey. Each of them has different tone of voice, different languages, because Brussels is a very multilingual city, and they struggle a lot to understand what the community behind think about their project. So we develop an application that facilitates this process of, for the citizens, give the voice, but for the decision makers, understand what's behind the community, what they think about a project, or what's their idea. And it's quite simple. So citizens share feedback via voice or text in public or private threads. So that can be topics. You can see that as a topic. And we use artificial intelligence to basically clusters feedback and detecting trends and analyze sentiment. And on the other hand, we provide to decision maker an actionable recommendation through a specific dashboard that can clearly identify what's behind this community thinking, right? So right now, I'm gonna speak about more the how we process that. So first, we would like to create some kind of session, and we would like to choose 4 different levels of participation. Alessandro introduced it a little bit. So we identified 4 different levels of participation. The first one is information, where you just provide information to citizens. The second one is consultation, where you need to gather people data, people feedback rates. And third one is co-creation, where you expect ideas from people, where you really trying to get ideas and you co-creating this project together. And Empower, where you give decision to people, right? So once you define the level of the participation, we generate a QR code where you can invite your participants to actually take place in the participation session. So the interface is quite simple. It's we didn't want to reinvent the wheel, right? There is already pre-existing interface, so we wanted to work on a very simple interface that is, of course, anonymous, accessible, and multilingual. Make it anonymous was very crucial for the participants. Sometimes people don't want to be identified, but it was crucial that we make those comments authentic. Well, you can provide anonymity, right? But you have to provide authentical feedback. So basically, it's a very simple interface. So people will talk, and then you can provide a reformulation of the idea. So you can be agree or disagree, and then you can approve your reformulation, and the ideas are then clustered, and we can identify cluster, and we can geolocalize those cluster to better understand what's the idea on a big map or on a big project. So yeah, it's a location-based feedback. On the other hand, every session are provided with context documents. So if, for example, you start a session, you want to inform your citizen about a new mobility plan in your neighborhood, you can provide documents that will inform the people where they have some questions. For in this example, it's written in French, I'm sorry, but how many parking places will be deleted in Rue Maurice? And then the chatbot is able to answer people's questions by fetching the data from the document that you just provided. So it's a very effective way to centralize FAQ by consistent access to data. And on the other hand, while we provide an effective way for citizens to participate and to get information from decision makers or public projects, we also provide a dashboard for decision makers that can identify where they can identify what's the trend behind this community. Is there an urgent topic that we have to resolve? And yeah. And so we use this tool. I will illustrate for the use case. So this was last year. It was for during the MVP phase. So the project was not still mature, but we used the same principle. So it was in a specific place in Brussels, where you can see here there is just a little map that shows the complexity of the place, where it's a public place where you have a school, you have a marketplace, and then you have a dangerous crossroads. And so we have multiple users, multiple citizens that express different opinions. And what we did, we launched a session of a SWOT analysis, where people can express their ideas, their strengths, opportunities, risk, and threat about the place, right? And we also came up with a bike where we use the application plus, of course, a plan as a support. And we gather some data about what the people think about the place. And here is a quick overview of what the tool provide in terms of feedback. So like good cycling network, weakness, a lack of green space. And so with that tool, that's some kind of template framework, we were able to better understand what's the opportunities to and weakness of that space. So it's a really a location-based tool that provide information, data to understand. Yeah. So the tool itself is built for communities, right? But it's tailored for decision makers, where it empowers the voice of citizens. But for municipalities, you can also collect and prioritize feedback for public projects. Of course, as well, governmental agencies and NGOs. Just to resume it, what makes it special? It's a true bottom citizen-driven approach that we truly believe that it starts from the bottom to reach the top. And it's AI-powered insight for faster, smarter decisions. We don't want to, of course, erase participation. We truly believe that participation, physical participation, is necessary, but we would like to touch more people by making this tool more accessible, and yeah, and that's it.
Thank you very much, Pacom, for sharing your experience, what you have put together, and the real example of have been used. With this concrete example, we wanted to show a different perspective. In the other ones, we were looking more at how migrants and refugees communities access the existing services, navigate their new city, etc. Here we are looking at another very important actor is putting more the emphasis on the public authority and how they involved citizens from any background in the decision-making processes. This is something that we've been looking at all in the EPICA project, but I know also in many other initiatives to be inclusive participation, and how public authorities can also perhaps leverage these kind of tools, again in combination with different initiatives. You saw how also like this bicycles were going around to inform people, so it's not only the digital connection, but how we can also use it as a tool to make citizen participation more active in their municipalities and in the decisions that are going to be made. Thank you very much, Pacom. We have put your information in the chat if anybody also wants to reach out to know more about the Vox app, to know how to use it in their context as well, because as we said, for you, for Alessandro, for Fridjot, all this is always evolving. You are working in optimizing all the apps, and I'm sure that you will be welcoming also people contacting you for collaborations or feedback. Thank you very much again to the three of you, Pacom, Alessandro, and Fridjot, for taking the time of preparing all this and sharing it with us. And with that, I really want to give a warm welcome to our last speaker, Leah Libanon, Digital Rights and City Cooperation Consultant, if I can, yeah, there you are, which you are going to, Leah, address now at this stage after all this presentation and intervention, some very important aspects of opportunities and risk. This has been coming throughout the conversation and in the chat, risk of leveraging technologies for digital inclusion, and you're going to have these cities experiences that you have worked with, city governance, and very important, the right base perspective when developing, implementing, analyzing all these. So we are really enthusiastic about having you with us today, and please, the floor is yours to elaborate more on this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Patricia, and thank you for all the presentation before. I will just first share my screen.
Yes.
So yeah, exactly. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to present from a city's perspective what are the lessons learned to ensure that using technologies, especially towards migrants and refugees, is truly inclusive. What do I mean by truly inclusive is because we have seen so far that integrating technologies in public services is not that simple. It requires strong digital infrastructure, various skill sets, and coordination capabilities. We also know that technology, especially such as AI, does not only require financial resources, but also increasingly have a climate and environmental costs. We will see also during this presentation that technologies are not necessarily neutral. They can also act as a reflection of the current inequalities and issues that our society is built on. And all that means that we also need to be prepared to assess when technologies, the use of technologies is useful and can really bring added values. So I'm not going to do, of course, an anti-tech presentation, far from it. Here, the point is more to see how we can ensure that we leverage the opportunity of technologies and decrease as much as possible the risk. And I'm sorry, I think, yeah, that's good. So to do so, has been identified, let's say, 4 core conditions that needs to be fulfilled. First of all, technology should comply with fundamental rights frameworks, especially keeping in mind a flexible mindset to make sure that we also adapt to the technological and societal evolution. Secondly, technologies need to be developed in a way that avoids reproducing the inequalities we have in our society. Thirdly, it should be also integrated in cooperation with policies that increase trust between residents and the public sector. And last but not least, we need to ensure that all residents have the concrete capacities and equal access to first use the technologies, but also to exercise their rights and correct violation if that proves to be necessary. So for each of these conditions, I will try to take a specific example and specific use cases from city administration. So the first one related to fundamental rights, I would like to more dig into data and protection privacy. So if we take the example of the city of Amsterdam, they are used to develop data protection impact assessments that we call also DPAIA. And they have also developed privacy statements. The purpose here is to ensure compliance with policy frameworks such as the GDPR, but also to ensure that we develop a more systematic approach of right monitoring mechanism. So for example, they did a DPAA before implementing the 2022 Dutch Immigration Act, which led to identify that the city was not ready actually to implement the legislation, at least the digital part, because the data infrastructure of the city was simply not resilient in-house. What does that mean? It means that there was still some cybersecurity risk of data breach, and that third country, as we have seen in the past, could have access to personal information of refugees and asylum seekers and potentially lead to repression and threat. Another example can be found in the city of Madrid and New York City, who, in the context of especially policy priority focus to reduce irregular immigration, they are trying to develop privacy-friendly solutions. So they have, for example, developed their own municipal ID card that people with no other documentation can obtain to request the provision of municipal services. And what is interesting here is that the data of the card holders is either stored on a closed database or requires the least personal information as possible. So for example, we don't have information about the immigration status, thus avoiding the risk that law enforcement authorities can access the data for more surveillance, detection, and potentially expulsion purposes. The second condition, and here I would like to more dig into the challenge of biases and discrimination in technologies. So we have, and I will here more take the cases of AI because it's a growing concern and trend. So we have a double edge of technologies and AI, and we can see it, as I said, with AI, which leads in cities to implement different strategies. So for example, in the city of Berlin and Espoo, they don't hesitate to use AI because it can improve equal access to services and tackle social challenges. They do it, for example, by developing chatbots and also audio translation for migrants integration and for speaking with them. But in the contrary, in the cities of Helsinki and Rennes, they decided for now to not use AI-driven solution for any public services directly in contact with residents, such as social, integration, education, healthcare services. The decision was based on frameworks such as the MIT AI risk repository, including because AI carries specific risk on discrimination. So researchers have shown that the use of generative tool in facial recognition tends to be less accurate for certain groups, such as Black people, due to biased data sets used to train system and also the criteria of the algorithm rules. We have similar examples, and I'm sorry I cannot dig into all of them, but in the United Kingdom, and that's why I've put links in the presentation. So we have similar examples in the United Kingdom, in the Netherlands, in Denmark, and also at EU level with the AI-based light detector e-border CTRL. So facing this, what are the main recommendations and what is done? We are trying to integrate fairness in the design of technologies by, for example, extending the data sets in a balanced manner, and also trying to really develop some non-discriminatory algorithmic criteria. Recommendation has made to also always having a control over automated system and algorithm, so a human control. It could also have been partially useful in the case of algorithm for long-term visa decision in the United Kingdom. Which also, of course, requires to have large training of civil servants and staff, not only on AI, but also on digital rights, on ethics, and the potential influence technologies can have on decision making. And as Yasmin said, it's also about really interacting with migrants and refugees communities to understand their experience related to technologies in integration services. And this last point is particularly related to the third condition, which is trust in the public services. So as you probably know, we have quite a huge crisis in trust between residents and the public administration. So I'm working also as a digital rights expert for Bordeaux Métropole, and we have a digital inclusion team here. And the experience from the field is that for now, at least, the digitalization of public services often means that the administration don't have direct contact with the population, a population that is still struggling to navigate the digital transition, and especially the vulnerable groups, creating further exclusion. It has been, for example, again highlighted by Yasmin. On the trust-related topic, more specifically, HESPU, with also Finnish University, with a project with Finnish University, has shown that the level of trust toward the public administration is considerably lower in migrants and refugees communities than in the overall population. And so what can we do? And I will also take example from the cities I just mentioned. What is mainly to invest, to steal and fight a bit, like to invest in human physical solution. I said fight because we of course have budget and financial constraints which are a bit complexifying all the landscape. But that is why in Bordeaux Métropole, we are currently trying to develop a project of going towards the most vulnerable people. So really trying to keep the physical contact and try to a bit like innovate in this physical contact, which is also essential to leverage the opportunity of technologies. In ESPU, it has been more shown in the way they are implementing the AI chatbot. So the purpose here is really more to help the interaction between the civil servants and the migrants and refugees, which means, for example, that it's not replacing any people in the migration team. Like they keep the same number of civil servants, of workers, and they more have this AI tool to improve the interaction, as I said. Last but not least, again, to have this effective use of technologies and equal access, we also need to invest and still need to invest in digital inclusion, literacy, and what we could call also just empowerment of migrants related to digital technologies. Why? Well, it has also been a bit explained again by Yasmin, but the digital divide is still persistent in the EU. According to the DAISY index, we have 46% of the population who still do not possess basic digital skills, and this number goes even higher with vulnerable groups, such as, and here migrants and refugees are one of the first audience in this lack of access, which, and I'm sorry, I also don't have so much time to get into it, but I'm available afterwards if you need, but it's really a couple of a complex situation between lack of access to the proper materials, also to the skills, and also an unstable situation related to living condition and psychological, often also challenges. So the last data I could find on that is a National Skills Coalition, who tells us that still 33% of immigrant workers do not have basic digital skills, and 29% very limited digital skills. So what what is done here at city level, and I will take only example of projects that are here to improve the overall population-based digital skills. Cities are, for example, developing free public spaces or distributing also refurbished devices. It's something that is done especially in the city of Rotterdam, Leipzig in Germany, Belo Horizonte in Brazil. But also invest in digital skills programs and digital mediation projects such as Bordeaux, Ghent, Glasgow, San Bor de Llobregat in Spain, or London. I will just add here that, of course, as I said, is a lot of budget and financial constraints, which means that migrants' population are not necessarily prioritized so much here, even if, of course, things are done. But as you may know, with like lack of financial and human resources, it's really hard to have also really structural impact and really drive structural changes. And in addition, and to conclude, to this two traditional side of digital inclusion, I will also add the necessity to ensure that people are aware of their rights and have the possibility to exercise them, for example, to raise complaints if necessary. So, for example, thanks to the Council of Refugees and Exile in Europe, we know that migrants are really exercising their rights related to data protection and privacy. And this is something that, for example, can be rectified by doing some informal session and by educating when we are interacting with migrants and refugees communities. So I try to be the quickest as possible because I had only 10 minutes. I hope I was in the time. Thank you very much for listening to this presentation. Just to know, I added some useful tools in the presentation. If you want to dig more into ethics and risk of technologies, it's really operational framework here that you have. So if you're interested and you need a bit of guidance here, you have these tools. And if you want to go further in the topic also of digital rights and also I also put the link of my paper on how digitalization of border and migration management is influencing both territorial and integration policies as well as migrants' living conditions within the EU. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leah. The presentation is extremely rich in different aspects and the condition that we really need to reflect upon when considering all these strategies on how to deploy the digital solution. You have put a lot of real examples, also bad examples that are essential to keep in mind, not to duplicate and to perpetuate inequalities that you highlighted, that this is extremely important. People are like really thanking you, congratulating you and asking for your email that you put, and we will be also sharing all the information because again, there are a lot of links for anybody who wish to go deeper into this. We know it's a 1 hour and a half webinar when we wanted really to have the policy, the research, the experiences for the developers, and also your experience as an expert and for the Digital Rights Coalition, which has been really, I think, at least to start scratching the surface on the topic. And again, we wanted to, for all those that are working on the ground, to start thinking about it and really to have this in mind. And from here, we will take further steps to ensure that we can consider all these existing experiences, not to replicate challenges in the past, but really to build upon the lessons learned and build upon existing tools that was also mentioned, like the repetition and the repetition of the same tools. But thank you again, Leah, and to all the speakers, Yasmin, Frigyot, Alessandro, and Pacom. I think that we have seen overall how digital solutions are with the challenges are increasingly centered to migrant integration. Is a tool, is not to be is not meant to overtake other services and other accompanying support that are really ensuring that inequalities are not even exacerbated. We have seen in the Integrate Rebuild, in the Box app, the practical examples, how they developed with the service provider, with the migrant communities, the strategy for ensuring that the digital solution support the inclusion rather than reinforcing the exclusion, how they can respond to service gaps, to limited public resources, but that they need to be intentional and they need to be inclusive. Since we are running out of time, and I'm really grateful that we still have almost 50 people around, because I know that the conversation is very interesting. And as I said, we will be happy to keep elaborating more on this. I see that some people are also putting some events. We will be happy to also to disseminate that through our channels. But I would like to give the floor to my colleague Mohamed Mustafa. Where can I see you? The project coordinator of EPICAP, who has been also asking curious questions during the morning in the chat for you to maybe send in a couple of minutes your takeaways and next step for EPICAP project.
Thank you very much, Patricia. Thanks for all the speakers for the very rich and valuable information that you shared with us today. I'm sure that on behind of the project consortium, because as I know, EPICAP is also really nice and rich in various consortium from local authorities, but also civil societies, migrant-led organizations. And I'm sure that especially our community of practice leaders that gain a lot of innovative insights that hopefully we can see one of our pilot projects within the community of practices in 6 EU countries that maybe we will have one good practices, or we will establish an innovation and inclusive digital tool within our corps. As we are now also, we are in a period with a project that we are learning from each others. We are traveling around in field visits. So having also this insightful informations, of course, it will let us reflect more within our internal discussions to design our ideas and prioritize our needs for the pilot projects. So yes, thank you again. Thank you very much. Thank you for you, Patricia, Marisol, and our colleagues from AEIDL to put all of this together. And it was really nice moment to reflect also with the speakers. I know that we didn't have enough time, because I know like the discussions and the points could go and go, because it's really like a current debate, if we can say. And there is a lot of cross-cutting that I encourage all the participants again to reach out to us in EPICAP Consortium, but also to our speakers. I'm sure that they are more than open to discuss more on that. So yes, thank you again. Thanks to everyone. I hand over the mic to you again, Patricia. Thank you.
No, just to echo your thank yous, Mohamed, and I think that everybody is really eager to keep the conversation going. Please feel free to be in touch, to reach out. You have our contacts. We do have a newsletter. We will have further webinars, policy labs on events, more opportunities for collaboration. I hope, again, if you're curious more about the digital tools that were presented, do not hesitate to reach to Alessandro, Pacom, or Fridtjof. And thanks again to the 5 of you for making the effort of in a very brief presentation to bring some concrete examples and reflection on this very complex but important matter. Thank you again. Wish you all a nice day, and take good care, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you very
Bye,
much.
Alessandro.